Okay, we're gonna do a short one to get through concept 8.2 here. So for foragers, the risk of exposure to predators is important. So there's a trade-off between when they go out to feed and when they're likely to get attacked by a predator. It's kind of a classic example of the introduction of wolves to the greater Yellowstone ecosystem. I believe these wolves were introduced by people. Yeah, there's a reintroduction of wolves that then expanded out, and then some migrations from neighboring areas. Wolf introduction has been a controversial topic, but ranges are expanding for these animals, and so it's important to look at how they impact the behaviors of their prey. In this case, we're looking at elk here, and this is looking at time in hours, when how they spend their time in either grassland, which is the red, or conifer forest, which is the blue. And what this is showing is that when wolves are present, but for both males and females, they are more likely to move into coniferous forest areas as opposed to open grasslands. Coniferous forest typically has less browse but more hiding areas compared to open grasslands, which would have more browse and less hiding areas. And so this is a behavioral change in response to a predator. And the whole wolf things I like to hunt argument is very lively and tense. Most of the data I've seen shows that wolves actually go for injured animals, and so in a lot of work done in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem, when they look at a carcass from a wolf kill, there's frequently something that we might not be able to detect, but something typically weakened about the animal. Frequently it's the knees, and so there'll be like a knee injury or an old knee. And so they're typically pulling out those members of the population as well as young. So they eat animals, and so there's an impact on those animals. This is a study looking at bluegill sunfish that were found to spend more time foraging in vegetation if the predator was present, which provided only a third of the 1/3 of the food of more open habitats. And so, but there's a size relationship here. So once you get too big to be eaten by bass, you could forage in ways predicted by the optimal foraging theory, meaning that small individuals tend to have to occupy more marginal habitat for fear of being consumed by a predator. And once they overcome that size to where they're no longer subject to predation by that predator, then they can go out and forage in the more optimal areas. Even the perceived risk of predation can alter. This is kind of cool, where they had song sparrows, and the sparrows were protected, but they still played noises of predators to kind of scare them. And then they had another group that were also protected, and then they played noises of animals that weren't going to try to eat them, and to see what happened. And so just based on manipulating noises, the birds that were presented with predator sounds made less feeding trips. So they left the nest less frequently to go out and forage and bring food back to their young. Presumably then their young would have a lower health index, as well as the nests were put further back in more thorny areas, and so there was some more kind of protection there, as opposed to the birds that were just played happy sounds of non-predators. Those birds tend to forage more frequently, would go out and get more food, had nests that were more accessible. Presumably the offspring then would be in a better health, have a better health index. So Prey species have evolved a range of defenses against their predators. Anti-predator behaviors include those that help the prey avoid being seen, hiding, sitting still, etc. Detect predators, prevent attack, or escape once attacked. Here are some examples here. Sleeping with one eye open. This is kind of cool where the, why am I blanking on what those things are called? Antelope jump as a behavior of like showing how fit they are, similar to like the lizards doing push-ups. These displaying their eye spots to startle predators. The snake is kind of crazy where it plays dead and then emits an odor of rotting flesh to prevent predation. This slug caterpillar is covered in stinging hairs to make them unpalatable to predators. So there's a wide variety of mechanisms here. This one's real short. I just want to wrap up this section and then I'll go on to concepts 8.3.